Hello my guys, welcome back to the channel today, and this is not something I was going to do a video on. I had something else in mind which I'm hopefully going to record anyway, like tomorrow or the day after, but CG being CG did something yesterday that was quite disappointing to do with Datacrons, and I'm sure I have not looked. I've been working in the real world very hard, so I'm sure a bunch of people have talked about this already, but there's one specific thing that I guess I want to draw attention to. It feels like when games companies want to change things, so when they want to increase the price of things, or when they want to knock the date back of something, they want to remove something, want to realign something, like Relic Delta, for example, they always give you an excuse, right? A reason. They always claim it's for balance of the game, or the amount of resources and for people to play that game mode, so they remove that game mode, whatever. They always have some kind of reason that they try to justify whatever the change is. People really wanted this, that's why we did it, even if people didn't want the thing, right? And if we just go to my tab, you can see, wow, that's very bright. But you can see the post that was made by CG Media yesterday, and I'm actually kind of impressed at how, I'm trying to think of the right word here. Flippant is not quite the right word, but it's very poorly thought out and dismissive, frankly, when you read it through, when you think about it, exactly what he's saying. So obviously the first bit, holiday hangover, okay, well, yeah, it's been like the 13th of January, right? Now it's the 12th when he did this, right? I mean, seriously, it's been a while, right? So anyway, I just want a hell of a hangover, but either way. Datacrons always been awkward with Conquest. Here is just put a spotlight on that. And line the content, we want to tweak the way Datacrons. Okay, now, I'm sure, again, someone has talked about this before, probably, again, I haven't checked, but Datacrons used to be in a different sequence about 2 years ago, 3 years ago. They changed it to be the sequence it is now. It used to be every 3 months, and now it's every 4 months. They only changed it back to every 3 months. Okay. They did it before for a reason, like for several reasons. It was the way people interacted with Datacrons, and it worked a lot better. It's actually worked kind of okay, frankly. It's worked better than I thought it would do over the past 3 years. That's for sure, 2 or 3 years, how long it's been. Not how long it's been. But they're going to lower the complexity, net neutral information to the brain. Now, that's a bit stupid. I mean, seriously, we're not idiots. In fact, if anything, we understand how the game works better than they do for the most part. Hence the fact that they have to constantly keep nerfing things or fixing things when we break it, because, you release the punishing one and suddenly the executive can beat every fleet in the game, or, you release the scythe and suddenly Chimera or the Executrix can beat every ship, like we can see these things because we play the game, we understand it, we understand that if you check in Ezra with Ray, that works really well. They didn't seem to realize these things, so that's a little bit insulting, frankly, considering how we interact with the game compared to them for the most part. But anyway, feedback. And then they say here, so they reroll the cost between 4 and 6. That's been half now. Okay, and they're just doing a fraction 4 to 2. They have not said anything about the leveling costs, so just flick back over to the game for a second. Oop. And go my I'm not a big Datacron person, to be clear. Yeah, thank you. I've already got it. Yeah, already got it. I just like that. I don't like numbers in the background. I'm not a massive Datacron person. I collect them a little bit. I draft them a bit, but I'm not. I just don't have the mental energy, physical energy, probably more when I work full time to also do Datacrons. The whole system is just an extra thing I don't want to do. Having twice as many, 3 times as many, 10 times as many doesn't really matter to me. Just the whole system is a lot of work for me to keep track of. But in any event, data content. And so, you can click on this one. This one's over level 1. You can see, right? I could level that one up. And you can see each level's got a certain cost, of both then the Mark 1s, and these are the Mark 2s. Yeah, Mark 2s. And then you get the Mark 3s coming in eventually, And you can all work out, they probably are not going to change these numbers. They have not mentioned this. They're probably not going to change the numbers, which is already a bad thing, because you only really get these for the most part through Conquest, right? Through the Conquest nodes at the end. And that's kind of like, okay, yeah. So you're basically trying to get us to do more work in our Conquest per set. So normally you get 2 Conquests, I think, roughly, to collect each set of Datacrons before the next one kind of flicks in with the way they overlap. Or 3, no, it's 2, no, Conquests. Whereas now they're basically saying you got 1, I think, is basically how it's going to flip out, which is not ideal. Anyway, So yeah, so firstly, they haven't mentioned this. This is stupid because it means you're going to basically lose half the materials you'd normally have to do all the upgrading. Okay, that sucks. They have changed the rerolls. That's cool, I guess, whatever, which is for 3, 6, and 9. And then you can redo the ones once you get to 9. You can go back and rechange them later on if you want to. But, you know, that kind of sucks. I'm sure the dismantle costs will be the same. I doubt they'll change those. But anyway, so they've not changed the leveling costs. Okay, that's all I got. But then, honestly, and this is where I got particularly like eye-rolly, which was, if you really think about it, with these cadence of Datacrons has been awkward with Conquest. Well, not for us, it hasn't, because we got used to it and we've run fine with it, but okay, whatever. And Eris has put a spotlight onto that. Like that half sentence on its own is kind of like, I just want to go to CG, go to someone from CG and say, why? Why has it put a spotlight onto it? Because if you go in the game, if you come back and forth, amazing sound, like switching over, right? Yeah, these are the area units, right? You know, it's all cool. You know, you can unlock them all the day if you have the right characters, which I just haven't done it yet. You know, at the minute, you can only use area characters in 3 specific places, right? You can use them in the marquee event, so like here, Inquisitor Barris. No, I can't do any of these tiers, but you can't use Datacrons in this tier, so whatever. You can use them in the area battle, which is, once this finishes in 6 days and 14 hours, it'll appear here. It'll be a Barris-based one, and it'll have different tiers, area challenge, whatever it's called, and you can't use them in that either. And then we all have the Colosseum, which we all love to hate or hate to love. And I won't run it now, but you know, surprisingly, I can't pick a Datacron there either. So the idea that Datacron should align with eras is just frankly absurd, because you don't get any materials for leveling them from the eras in any way. You don't get to use them in any way with the eras. So why would it matter if they align or not with this system? There's only one possible out at this point, I would argue, which is that they're going to include them in eras somehow. But I don't see how they would do that yet, because frankly, it would literally be just for Colosseum, which would be a massive waste of time. I mean, it would go from the person who has the most money spent to get the most stars and the most era levels, who gets the highest score in Colosseum, would then change to the guy who spent the most on Datacrons, probably. Which, you know, it's stupid whichever way you slice it, frankly. It's just such a, I'm not going to call it a lie, because that's very harsh. They may not think about it in the way that we think about it, so I'm going to try and be kind. But it's certainly not true that eras and Datacrons align in any way, and there's no point to it, and there's no need to have it aligned, and there's no thought process behind it. We do not collect them, we do not level them, we do not use them in eras, so why would it matter? Now, you could argue to align it with Conquest mode would be better. You could align it with, say, every 2 conquests or whatever, then you switch them over, whatever it is. You know, you could align them in a certain number of conquests, because each conquest takes 2 weeks and 2 weeks off. So roughly on average, once per month, you get a conquest, give or take. In which case, you could roughly align it once per month for your conquests, and you could fix it down that way. So like the first 2 weeks of every month are always going to be conquest. And then you could fix it down so that, say in January, you get Conquest, so you get Datacron set A, and then in March you get Datacron set B, and then in May you get C or whatever, and then when you get to D, which is in July, A gets sliced up or whatever. You know, we could make up numbers, whatever it is, you can make up numbers, whatever, dates, months, whatever you want to do it, but that kind of thing, right? And they could do that. That would be very sensible, but that would be very helpful if they really did just physically align it properly and set it down in stone like that. But they have decided to go all in on this, and like I said, I don't want to call it a lie, because I'm sure it's not deliberate, I'm sure, but saying that they're trying to align it with eras, as if eras would have anything to do with Datacrons in the slightest. They do not. They may as well take a hike, you know, the Datacrons in this mode. They do nothing. There's no point. Anyway, as I was, this was something that I saw, and I initially I didn't really take in what they said. You know, I read it on the train back from work yesterday, and I was like, oh, well, no, okay, they're changing Datacrons. They're trying to make more money. Whatever, I guess. Fine, I suppose. And then reading it again today when I had more time and it was a bit more coherent, completely understanding that this is just it's like I said at the start, games companies give us bad reasons and excuses all the time for things. We're trying to make the game fairer, we're trying to realign the meta, we're trying to give you something that people want, we're trying to take away something people don't want, whatever it is. And this is just a terribly bad excuse that's not even an excuse because it literally is unrelated. It's such a stupid thing. Anyway, I just wanted to get my thoughts down in video form at least, because it has been bugging me all day since I thought about this like 3 or 4 or 5 hours ago, and I just wanted to point it out there that this is almost like a different tactic from CG. This is not either they're very unaware themselves that errors and Datacrons have no idea, which is one possibility. They literally have no clue that Datacrons have no effect in that mode, so why would it matter? Or they think that we're stupid enough, frankly, to believe that this is a good reason. And either one is bad, right? Either they don't understand how their own game works, or they think we don't understand how the game works. And both of these things. Anyway, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys all next time.